Welcome to Doors to Hope and Healing, an inside look at foster care and adoption needs in Connecticut. My name is Jacqueline Ford. I have had the honor of working for the department for close to 30 years, and although I may be familiar with many of the topics I bring to you, I have invited experts in those fields to help dispel the myths and misconceptions that often act as barriers. Join us as we open our doors to an inside look at the Department of Children and Families. Keith and Giovanni, thank you for being my guests on Doors to Hope and Healing today. It's a pleasure to have you both here.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. Gio, I'm going to call you Gio for our time today when we talk, make it feel more comfortable and personal.
No worries.
Keith, you're an old friend to our show. You've been on Doors to Hope and Healing in the past and talked a little bit about your journey and about where you are now. For any of our viewers who may have missed that show that you were on a couple of years back, can you share with us how you first became reacquainted with the Department of Children and Families?
I think it was 2 years ago. Kim, who was a supervisor for DCF, was doing a function at my job, which was the Hilton Garden in Glastonbury. I was the executive chef at the time of the planning for this function. I told her, like, hey, I used to be a foster child. She was out all by it and asked me would I be interested in speaking later on at the event, and I was very happy to. And ever since then, life has been great.
It has been great. We so that event was a weekend-long initiative that we had been doing where people who were interested in being foster parents came to the hotel, and they stayed there for a whole weekend, and they were trained for the whole weekend. And it was such an incredible surprise to us to find that the executive chef, who was going to be cooking for all of these potential foster families, was a foster child himself. And I think that your courage and that bravery you had to not only say that you were a foster child, because sometimes there's people don't like to say that, they don't like to say that they were in foster care. You were brave to share that, and then you had the courage to speak in front of all of those foster families and thank them for what they were about to do. So I think that our connection began then, and in getting to know you as well as I did, we felt as a department that you'd be a great resource to talk to our youth, to inspire our youth to be their best selves because of your example.
And I appreciate that. I know I told you this before, but I feel like you are like one of the highlights in my life, because you have given me a couple of platforms where I am able to talk to kids that are going down the wrong path or just need some type of guidance. So the platform that you have offered me definitely is very appreciative.
Well, it's my honor to know you and to have you speak to the youth, but be so willing and offer of your time and volunteer your time and be honest with these kids. And we'll talk a little bit more about our continued work and our plans for the fall. But before I do that, I want to introduce our viewer to Gio. So Gio, how old are you now?
I'm 20.
20 years old, and you had experience in the foster care system.
Yeah.
So take us through that journey. How old were you when you came into foster care?
So I was 6, if I don't recall. I was actually I was one of those kids where like I was in foster care for like a while. So I was technically a foster kid from 2006 to like 2011. So I got adopted in 2011, and then now I'm here. So. And
were you adopted by your foster family?
Yeah, I've been with them. They were the only family I've ever been with. So. That's
wonderful.
Yeah, it was. They actually, I have 2 little brothers, so they actually took them in as well, and brought the whole family in and everything. So it was pretty cool. So
they fostered you and your brothers, and they adopted you as a family?
Yeah. So originally it was me. They actually were looking for me because they had a son that wanted like a little brother to like play video games with, and They brought me in, and I liked it there. They liked me, and they kind of just fell for me, and looked at me as a son. My little brothers were bouncing house to house to house, unfortunately, but I don't know. I don't know if it was up to them or DCF, but somehow, somewhere, they came in, and they sealed the deal. So.
And your foster family opened their home to them as well. And
Yeah.
what's the age difference between you and your brothers?
So my little brothers, one of them's 18, so he's 19, excuse me. He's a year younger than me. The other one is 17, about to turn 18. So, they're like friends as well. It's not like I got to baby them or anything like that. So.
And what are they doing now?
Well, the one that is 19, that's a year younger, he actually just graduated high school, and he's looking to go into something similar to me, where they kind of just teach him maybe how to dishwash, cook, stuff like that, basic skills, because he actually has autism, so
Okay.
He deals with that, and I'm happy for him. So if he wants help, he can come up to me. He knows that. My other one, he's kind of going down a similar road when it comes to certain things, when it comes to life. But, he's still trying to graduate high school and, see if he can go to trade school or something like that. Because he's more of a hands-on type of guy. So,
Well, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you all support one another and had the love and support of your foster family, too.
Yeah, it's tough love, but, there's
Yeah.
love there. So,
Yeah, well, tough love is okay.
Yeah, of
Sometimes
course.
we all need a little bit of tough love.
Of course.
So you graduated high school and then you
Yeah.
went on to Central? Is
Yes.
it? Oh,
Yeah.
And how old were you when you started Central?
I was 18.
18.
Or went in at 17, but yeah.
So are you still enrolled in Central now?
At the moment, technically yes, but I'm not attending school.
Okay.
But there's a whole reason behind that. I was actually, originally 2020 was kind of like a peak year to me. My foster parents ended up kicking me out, and I did some things on my behalf where I didn't understand certain things, and obviously I think it was for the better because it taught me a lot of responsibility, and just made me more humble for sure. And we still talk today. It's not like
Okay.
but I ended up I shouldn't say throwing, but I ended up putting that to the side because I was more focused on where am I going to sleep, where am I going to eat, where am I going to shower on a daily basis, because I just didn't want to live in my car for a decent amount of time. So
So you're living on your own now?
Yes.
And I understand that Keith is mentoring you.
Yes.
So how did the two of you meet, and how did that relationship begin?
We have a mutual friend named Chris.
Yeah.
Chris is all our friend.
Yes.
And Chris called me one day and said, hey, I know this guy named Gio. He's interested in cooking, and I know that's your expertise, and I was wondering if can I connect you guys? And the first thing I said was, how old is he? Because for me, I like to deal with the youth. So he's 20. I was like, sure. So how long ago do you think that was?
A few months ago, maybe
Okay.
2-3 months ago, I'd say.
So the Chris is Chris Scott, right?
Yes.
So Chris Scott is, he started an exceptional program at Central. For our viewers who are watching, Chris was a foster child in our program. He's doing phenomenal work on behalf of the youth. He started his own nonprofit, and I met Chris. He's been a friend on our show here, and connected you to him.
Yes.
So then he connected you to Gio.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And me and Gio have been talking. We talk regularly. He told me that he want to learn. He want to be an executive chef, and I pointed him to the right direction. He's working at the Hilton. He's currently doing setting up banquets and functions like that. But the goal is to have him transition from that to prep cooking, and then line cooking, and then the rest is up to him.
Wow.
But he definitely seems like this is something he want to do.
Yeah.
He asks a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's how you're going to know the answers, right? If you ask the questions. But I think what's so incredible about this story is that the Department of Children and Families met you, Keith, at the Hilton in your role as the executive chef. And here we are coming full circle where you've since moved on, and we'll talk a little bit about your new job, and you've recommended him to work where you were working in the past.
And the main reason, because I feel, I was just telling him this outside, like the Hilton is a perfect place to get your feet planted in the culinary world. I feel, because the operation is kind of small, but they do large-scale events. So for him having a little bit of culinary experience, the Hilton could definitely push him to like newer heights. And with our general manager there, his name is Ed. Ed is very encouraging. He'll help him get his serve saved. He will encourage the guy that's in charge now to give him more hours so that way he can learn more about the cooking aspect. Because when I was there, that was something that we was into. We used to have kids from the American School for the Deaf come over, and they used to help us out around the kitchen and give them life skills and like other different programs. So I just felt like it was fitting to go back to the Hilton Garden Inn where they not just only speak about giving back to the community, they actually do it and nobody even knows. So for me, that's like the blessing. Like they're not doing it for publicity or anything like that.
Right, yeah, and they're looking to help others and kind of groom them to be the best workers they can be for their establishment.
Definitely.
So what does it feel like to have a mentor, someone that you can talk to who's always there for you and can guide you and support you? How does that feel, especially knowing that Keith gets it? You know, he was where you were many years ago. Well, not that many. Not that many.
Please.
But he was in, he understands, the foster care and how that felt to be a foster child and how it felt to feel some levels of disruption. How would you explain your relationship?
So a few years back, if you asked me this question, it probably, I wouldn't have even thought of an answer or had an answer because I used to, and sometimes I used to be really, really like ignorant and stubborn. So I was never open to like having a mentor because I thought I knew everything, or I was never open to like, oh, let me do this and that. But my first mentor was Chris, and I ended up expanding that into another mentor named Ann. She helps me on some other things when it comes to, finances, stuff like that. And then I expanded that with Chris, obviously, to him. And honestly, like at first it was different because it's like I don't know how to explain it. It's a different situation because you're explaining like your whole situation to somebody you don't know, but they really see that potential in you and they want to help you. But I love it because it definitely brought me like a lot of knowledge that I never would have had without talking to them and stuff like that. So that's my goal. Like I'm always open to any new people being mentors to me because you can't learn if if there's nobody to teach you. So
I think and also just to add into that, I think what makes us good is because it's just not a lot of talk, right? A lot of kids, they always have people say, oh, hey, I can do this for you, I can do this, and they never show it with actions. I had him come to my current job. I said, listen, I'm an assistant director over there. All you got to do is just come there and you'll be okay. He went, and the lady told him, it wasn't even an interview. She's like, all right, we're going to hire you. He went to the Hilton, it was the same outcome. And I always tell him this, as long as me and you are in each other's lives, like you don't have to worry about nothing. Just be humble and just follow the lead and I'll get you where you need to be. I think it was like last week we had like a little issue.
A tiff?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Because I'm like kind of blunt, and he was telling me like, hey, I don't want to be working a job at this pay. I need to be getting this, and things like that. So I had to become like a big brother for a minute, and like, hey, listen, before you get to C, you have to master A first. And then the transition to B, and then the transition to C. This is the natural order of things. But I think it all worked out.
Yeah, for sure.
And for me, what makes it funny and humbling is today is the first day like we ever met face to face. And I know so much about him. He knows about me. We done had a little tiff. And so much stuff that happened between two strangers that never seen each other.
Yeah, I think that's incredible. And the chemistry that the two of you share, you would never know that you've never met until the set today at the show. So I think but I think, we've probably perfected that virtual world because of the pandemic. And many of us got to know other people through that virtual world. And I think you two did that as well, whether it was through telephone conversations or texting, and just feeling that confidence that someone's there for you and the assurance that they are, because he may be making you take the steps to get where you need to go, which is important, because you can't just hand kids things or youth things or anybody things. You have to work for that. But he's helping you and he's guiding you with these opportunities.
Yeah.
And you started out as strangers. Do you think that this experience you're having with Keith would ever make you want to be a mentor for someone one day?
Of course, absolutely. I wouldn't mind being a mentor now. I mean, obviously, I still got to learn a lot of stuff, and there's still stuff that as time goes on,
we all do.
But yeah, of course, I always told certain people, like, if I could do anything for the rest of my life, I didn't have to worry about bills, nothing, right? If I could help anybody, regardless of what it is, I always would do that. So absolutely.
No, that's endearing to hear that.
Yeah.
So you started your job at the Hilton,
Yes.
and how are you liking it?
I like it, positive people, encouraging, like you said, and it's something new, but I feel like I've had jobs in the past where, like, I felt like, okay, I'm doing the work, I'm a good worker, I'm a hard worker, but is there growth here, Is there potential for me to grow? And here I really feel like it's promising for sure. So
Good. And all that you're learning helps you to grow with other opportunities outside. You're building your resume.
Yeah.
You're building your resume. And I think, Keith, you have moved on from the Hilton, and you have a promotion.
Yes. Once the pandemic happened, I got laid off from the Hilton. I'm currently still employed. I'm still employed there, but my main job is I'm assistant director for Middlesex Health in Middletown.
Good for you.
Yeah, I'm very, very excited about that.
Good for you.
So that's like what's going on with me right now.
Well, I think that, for our youth in care, and are you still, so you're adopted by your foster family?
Yes.
And I think that, no one can have enough mentors in their lives, and we may not call them mentors or see them as mentors, but to have other adults support you and be supported by your adoptive family and your brothers, and what you're learning from Keith, you can also teach to your brothers who may find themselves in the same situation that you have found yourself in.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I mean, even though certain things have happened in my life when it comes to my foster parents, I love them, I appreciate them for everything they've done, and just because certain stuff happens, so my foster father helps me out and tries to do what he can for me, and even my foster mother, she taught me how to read. Like that was like the basic thing. When I was younger, she taught me how to read, how to do math and stuff like that. So, even though sometimes I might not speak to certain people, there's no hard feelings. Like I appreciate everything they've done, and if they're willing to tell me something, I'll listen. So.
And I think that as you grow and mature, and we all grow, we learn tolerance, and we learn forgiveness, and we learn from experiences. Before we end our show today, I know that, Keith, you're going to be doing something exciting with our youth at SoulKnit.
That is true.
So we have a facility, to our viewers, we have a facility called SoulKnit, which is for our male youth, and they have a life skills program, and they teach culinary skills. And I thought Keith would be a great addition to that program, not only because of his culinary skills, but because of his story. And your story matches in parallel to so many of those youth that you're going to be working with. So can you tell our viewers a little bit about what you're going to be doing in the fall, starting in September?
Well, first, I feel like that's like the response for everything. Oh, Keith.
Yes.
So what I'm going to be doing is so they got the culinary program. What I want to try to do with these kids is just show them how food itself is so similar to our lifestyles. How you can don't look at this salt, pepper, and parsley right here as just ingredients to go in a meal. Just look at them as different situations that occur in your life. And you could take these three things and put something so beautiful together, something that is so changing for somebody together that it ends up being something beautiful. The thing I also want to tell them is there is hope. don't let right now define who you are, because there is another part of your story that has to be written, and hopefully, you know, I can help them author these stories, because a lot of times we tend to forget about these kids. We call them trouble, or it's a waste of time, they're not gonna change, because that's how people used to look at me. But at the end of the day, the kids that we save today will turn out tomorrow to be our shining stars, you know. So like I'm like so looking forward to this, and I want to thank you for the opportunity, another opportunity. Thank you,
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I think that we need to empower our, you know, adults in our lives that we're foster kids, because, you know, you're going to make that impact, and you're going to teach those kids about hope and resilience, and you'll be, you know, helping them author many stories. So I thank you, and I thank you, Gio, for being on our show today.
Thank you.
And someday I'll have you come back and talk to our viewers about how it feels to be a mentor for a youth in care.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us today on Doors to Hope and Healing. Now we're going to play a video of some youth from our Youth Advisory Board who are going to tell a story about how important it is to meet them where they're at. Thank you.
As someone who grew up in care without a foster home, I can speak to how challenging that made my life.
I was afraid that I was going to be homeless, and I didn't know where I was going to be when I, you know, would have to pack up all my things.
It was scary to think that if something happens, who do I turn to? I don't have anybody.
I felt like, well, I already have family who don't care, so why would a stranger care about me?
Because I couldn't be matched with someone who was willing to give me a chance, I ended up subjected to more trauma in a setting that wasn't appropriate for me.
No one wants to be homeless, and, you know, if that's the case, like, you know, what do you do? What's the plan?
I think if I had been matched with a foster home, a lot of things probably wouldn't have happened to me.